There's a part of you that has never seen the light of day, a version of you that you've kept locked away, buried under polite smiles, careful words, and a carefully managed image. You've built a life that looks right on the surface, but somewhere deep inside, there's a voice whispering, "This isn't all of me." You've been taught to fear that voice, to silence it, to pretend it's not there. But it's not going anywhere because that voice is your shadow, and the longer you deny it, the louder it gets. Carl Jung described the shadow as everything about ourselves that we repress or deny the traits, impulses and emotions that we've decided are unacceptable. Some of them might be genuinely destructive if left unchecked, but others are simply parts of ourselves, because they didn't fit the version of us that others wanted to see. The dangerous thing is the shadow doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It lives in the basement of your mind, influencing your thoughts, your reactions, your relationships without you even realizing it. It's the reason you snap at someone when you promised yourself you'd stay calm. It's the reason you self-sabotage right when things are going well. It's the reason you feel an unexplained heaviness in moments that should feel joyful. You've been told to just be positive, to focus on the good. But think about it. Light without darkness is incomplete day. Without night is impossible, and a human being who only embraces their good side is only half alive. That's why you sometimes feel like something's missing, because you've cut yourself off from an entire dimension of your being. When we talk about embracing your dark side, it doesn't mean giving in to destructive impulses. It means acknowledging they exist so they don't control you from the shadows. It's like owning the fact that there's a loaded weapon in the house. You can pretend it's not there and risk it going off accidentally, or you can learn to handle it with care, responsibility, and awareness. Here's the strange thing: most people will spend their whole lives running from their shadow. But the more they run, the more it leaks out. It shows up as passive-aggressive comments. When you refuse to admit you're angry, it shows up as secret obsessions. When you won't admit your desires, it shows up as envy disguised as judgment, or insecurity disguised as perfectionism. The truth always finds a way out, whether you want it to or not. The first step to working with your shadow is to notice your projections, that person you can't stand, who just rubs you the wrong way. Often they're holding up a mirror to a part of you that you've disowned. Someone's arrogance might be reflecting the confidence you wish you had. Their ambition might be shining a light on the drive you've buried under fear. Even someone's recklessness might remind you of the freedom you've denied yourself. Your shadow shows itself in the people who trigger you most. The second step is to sit with your discomfort when you feel jealousy instead of pretending it's not there. Ask yourself what it's trying to tell you. Jealousy isn't always ugly. It can be a signal pointing towards something you deeply want, but haven't allowed yourself to pursue. When you feel rage, instead of bottling it up until it explodes, ask what boundary has been crossed. The shadow isn't your enemy, it's your compass. And then comes the integration, the process of actually bringing these hidden parts into your conscious life. This doesn't happen overnight. Shadow work is like slowly turning on the lights in a room you've been afraid to enter. At first, you'll see dust and cobwebs, things you wish weren't there. But the more you look, the more you realize this room also holds tools you forgot you owned. Some of your greatest strengths are hiding in your shadow. Your boldness, your ability to say no, your raw creativity, your willingness to speak an unpopular truth. These are qualities that might have been shamed out of you early in life. Maybe someone told you you were too much or too intense. Maybe you were rewarded for being agreeable and punished for being outspoken. Over time, you learn to hide the very parts of yourself that could make you powerful. This is why embracing your dark side is not dangerous. It's necessary without it. You're incomplete without it. You live like a plant that's only getting half the sunlight. It needs to grow, and here's the thing: people can feel the difference. You've probably met someone who just radiates presence, someone who feels unshakable, real. That's not because they're perfect. It's because they've stopped hiding. They've made peace with their shadow. So they don't waste energy maintaining a mask. They walk into a room as a whole person, and that authenticity is magnetic. But there's a cost to doing this work. It will destroy the old version of you, the safe version, the one who's always agreeable, the one who never makes waves, the one who keeps their edges sanded down so no one ever feels uncomfortable. You'll lose that person, and you'll gain someone far more dangerous in the best possible way. You'll start to see the games people play because you've already confronted those same patterns in yourself. You'll stop being so easily manipulated because you're no longer afraid of your own darkness. And you'll stop living with that constant subtle fear of being found out because there's nothing left to hide. This isn't easy work. It will feel like pulling out splinters that have been under your skin for years. It will mean facing moments from your past that you'd rather forget. It will mean admitting that some of the pain in your life has been self-inflicted, not out of weakness, but because you were operating in the dark. But the reward is wholeness, and wholeness is worth everything. Here's a question you need to sit with tonight. If no one could ever judge you again, who would you allow yourself to be? What would you say? What would you do? What would you finally stop apologizing for? The answers to those questions are the keys to your shadow, and when you unlock it, not to destroy, but to integrate, you stop being a prisoner of your own mind. You become the kind of person who can hold both the light and the dark without fear. And that's the kind of person who is truly unstoppable. Because at the end of the day, the parts of you you've been hiding are not there to destroy you, they're there to complete you. The question is, how much longer will you keep them locked away? You've been told your whole life to be good, to be nice, to only show your best self. But here's the truth. Light without darkness is a half-truth, and living as only half yourself is a slow death. The shadow you've been hiding is not the villain in your story. It's the missing co-author. And until you bring it to the table, your life will always feel like an unfinished sentence. When you start embracing your dark side, you'll notice something almost paradoxical. You don't become more chaotic, you become calmer. You don't become more dangerous in the destructive sense, you become dangerous in the liberating sense. People can't control you with guilt when you've made peace with the parts they try to shame. They can't scare you with rejection when you've stopped rejecting yourself. But this work doesn't happen in grand cinematic moments. It happens quietly in the moment. You finally say no, without giving a long, nervous explanation. In the moment you allow yourself to feel anger, without rushing to bury it under forced smiles. In the moment you speak the truth, even though your voice shakes. That's how you start integrating the parts of yourself you've locked away, not by force, by permission. And yes, people will notice. Some will admire it, others will fear it. And that's okay, because the goal of this journey is not to be liked by everyone. It's to be whole, to stand in your own skin, without constantly wondering which version of you is acceptable today. If you can make peace with your shadow, you will become someone that the world cannot easily manipulate. You'll start to see your past differently, realizing that many of the things you thought were weaknesses were actually untrained strengths. Your jealousy becomes a compass pointing toward desire. Your anger becomes a boundary detector. Your fear becomes a map of where your deepest growth is waiting. Every great artist, leader, thinker, and creator who ever truly changed the world, whether they admitted it or not, was in touch with their shadow. Because only by holding both the light and the dark can you see the full spectrum of reality. And here's the irony. The moment you stop hiding your shadow is the moment it stops haunting you. It doesn't vanish, but it no longer drives your life from the back seat. You take the wheel. You become the author of your own story again. So maybe it's time to ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped being afraid of what you might find in the dark? What if the thing you've been avoiding isn't a monster, but a missing piece? What if your shadow isn't here to ruin you, but to make you whole? Because the day you answer those questions with courage, that's the day you stop surviving and start living.